Hey everyone, you guys all know Ricky, and some of you may know me. And we find that Ricky and I are always complaining about things every week. And when we talk about those things that we're complaining about to other people, people find those topics very interesting. So we figured we could do a short form content where we talk about the things that have been happening in the last week and just share it with you guys so you can maybe get some benefit.
Today's topic, sale of business. So, question, last week I got a call from one of my team members. Ricky, the client doesn't want to pay for a lawyer. It's a sale of business. It's in a leased premises. Is there even a title search or a non-title search? Like, do we need a lawyer? My client's asking me to just paper it over without a lawyer.
So, short answer is you can do it without a lawyer. The problem is that I don't know if they have the ability to do searches that are required for them to get this project done properly. So very simply, right? Let's say I'm buying your business and there's like a bunch of channels, like these mics and the screens and everything, right? One of the searches I would do is a PPSA search, right? So I actually make sure that these items don't have any liens on it, similar to when you do an on-title search to see if there's like a mortgage on title. So if we find out that you have an RBC loan for $50,000 and it's registered against all of the chattels that your business owns, that means all of these things are essentially have a lien on it. So if I pay you that money and you didn't pay out RBC, then RBC is going to be like, well, no, you don't own that, I do. Right, that's one of the biggest things. But we also check out litigation, zoning searches and things like that, right? So,
well, see, from my perspective as a broker, I'm looking at it from the point of view that okay, so we recently saw a case where somebody bought a salon and then found out when the municipality shut it down that it couldn't be used as a salon. So yeah, an agent can confirm with the city that the use is legal, right? We can put representations and warranties. We can do stuff like that. But one of the challenges I have as a broker is that if I don't get a closing direction from the lawyer and I'm holding the trust funds, I'm not comfortable dispersing.
What was interesting about what you just said, though, right? Would you advise your realtors to do that due diligence, to take that step to make sure that the zoning actually applies? Because, like, to my understanding, look, you're paying the realtor a commission, right? Their commission is going to be paid based on if the deal closes. You're paying the lawyer per hour, right? So to my understanding, wouldn't it be best for the realtor just to do basic due diligence, figure out the zoning beforehand? Because I feel like in that situation, it would have been disclosed what type of commercial asset it is. And if they don't understand it, they go to a lawyer that they know and say, hey, by the way, does this fit this format?
Okay, so here's how I look at it, right? Purely from a brokerage perspective, broker record. So first and foremost, when you start looking at TRESA and where the fiduciary relationship is, you have to figure out who you're representing, whether there's an SRP or not. Sometimes you got a listing and then the buyer's an SRP. Are you going to do all that for an SRP? Well, no, because they're self-represented, right? Now, in the event that you've got someone that is a client, so let's say we're not dealing with the listing, we're purely on the buying side. To the agent, like, you shouldn't be acting in a transaction where you're not reasonably competent, okay? And as a part of the representation agreement, this is why like a lot of people sign this later and they get weird about it, especially clients. Frank reality is that you want to sign the buyer representation agreement up front. Make it for that property if you have a problem. Make it for a week or a day if you want. But sign that, because in the Schedule A of that document, TRESA now requires that you have all of your list of services itemized. And so just like a lawyer's retainer, if I'm dealing with a sale of business and I'm the buyer's agent, in there I'm putting in, these are the things I'm doing. I'm helping you with the evaluation. I'm helping you put together documents. I'm recommending lawyers and financing, blah, blah, blah. And then these are the things that I'm not doing. I'm not doing these searches. Just like you. You're not going to do every search under the sun.
Yeah.
And you itemize that in your retainer. So starting point for any agent that's watching this, and for any client really, you want to make sure that the services that you're rendering are documented. One, that's really important because it limits the liability for both parties. Second thing now, if I've been hired to help somebody purchase a sale of business in a leased premises, naturally, I would want to make sure that the evaluation makes sense. So financial review. I would want financial statements for at least 3 years. I might be asking for NOAs or T1s or T4s or whatever it is, depending on what type of transaction I'm dealing with.
And to be fair on that, I would always say with financials, you're not going to ask the realtor about it. You should go to an accountant, right? Because that's what they're for. But what I thought was really interesting, which I didn't know, is that listing the list of services of what they're doing. So if they're there to negotiate, right, they shouldn't be then saying to the lawyer, oh, by the way, can you talk to the landlord and figure out these lease things, right? Because I think what was interesting for me is that if you're going to a competent realtor and they're listing, these are the tasks we're doing, and one of the tasks is I'm going to check with the city what the zoning is. You can verify if this makes sense, but I'm going to get that information for you. Or I'm going to negotiate with the landlord and see if I can get like a 5-year renewal, right? By them listing those services, one, it shows the competency of the agent. Second, it shows to the client, this is all the stuff we're doing. And they can go to their lawyer afterwards and be like, can you do additional services, right? They can figure out the charges behind that. But that actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because if the realtor is not willing to provide to you what are the services they're going to do, then how do you know whether or not they're of value to you?
Yeah, and it's interesting 'cause sometimes clients are like, I need an agent to just put together the offer. My lawyer's going to handle it, right? So from a brokerage perspective, purely me as an overseeing broker of record manager, main thing is I would want the agents to document what's happening and not happening, and then obviously representing the client's best interests. I mean, you got to have a baseline. So we put in the lawyer's approval there so that we limit some of the liability. We push off some of the liability. Right, because when you're looking at an agreement of purchase and sale, I mean, the agent's going to do their best based on their experience, and they're expected to uphold a certain standard. But let's say I'm buying a cannabis store.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with sale of business. I don't know about cannabis stores, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you want to make sure that the lawyer looks over the agreement of purchase and sale. Make sure that if there's something missing, it's added, right? And if there's nothing missing, they comment on it, and it's all good. And at least now, as an agent, I've got an opinion from a lawyer, and if there's a problem, I'm going to say, well, that's why I added lawyer's approval. So it to some extent pushes the liability onto somebody else,
Exactly,
which is good.
And that's the thing, right? So I think when I'm usually brought into that conversation with clients, that is what I want them to understand, right? The realtor is getting paid a commission. This is their specialty. But if you're bringing it to me, I am now I'm taking over the liability. If I'm going to take over the liability, I will bill for that time to give you that opinion, because now I'm the one responsible for telling you whether this makes sense or not.
Yeah.
And I think where clients sometimes get confused is like, what is the specialty of the realtor? What is the specialty of the lawyer? And you have to, if you want a good service done, you have to first of all find somebody who's competent, and then make sure that you're paying them for that service, right? And I think really that's the takeaway from this conversation is find people who you know are going to do a good job, right? Who are competent in what they do, so you can maximize the service provided, and who are not telling you they're doing things that they can't do. And then also make sure you have a solid team behind you, whether it's a good accountant that's going to look at the financials, a solid lawyer who understands what that transaction entails, or a really good realtor who can negotiate the best deal for you, right? I think that's what it comes down to.